I feel like I'm in I'm among friends. And I gotta say, right now, I feel incredibly raw. And I don't know how folks in the room are feeling, but waking up and hearing another mass shooting is really deeply, deeply affecting me. So I want to hold this space for a moment because in order for me to continue, I just need to have a collective moment of silence and remembrance of the horrific event that happened yesterday in Orlando, and just take a moment to claim that. So I have about 50 minutes, and I've asked my friend Sandy up there to give me 15, 15, and 15, because I don't want to take the whole time, and maybe we can open it up for some questions. But thank you for taking that moment to bring what many of your kids bring with them each and every single day. We bring our histories, our realities, our hunger, our trauma into our daily lives, and they're not separate, and they affect us. And we are in the business of creating meaning through our work, and how we provide that space in our classrooms, in our organizations, in our institutions, in our school districts, in our government jobs, I think can't be underestimated. How many of you are artists in this room? Let the record state that 1/3 are about artists. For those of you that did not raise your hand, I want to know, did you have arts growing up in your life? Did you have it in school? How many of you had arts in your elementary or secondary class? Raise your hand. Okay, we have just about 1/3. Keep your hand raised. Great. That's remarkable. And how many of you had it outside, either in your home or got taken to a place? So we have about 1/4. And I would say there's about 75 people in the room. We're Facebooking live, by the way, because you know I love social media. Because social media levels the playing field, and it actually creates opportunities for revolutions to happen. And I think we need a revolution in compassion at this moment. And how many people here went to school in California? Oh, okay. So a lot of public school in California, keep your hands raised. Okay, so we have like 2/3 of the audience. And of those 2/3, keep your hands raised. How many of you had arts education in your school? Okay, so some hands are going down. And what I'm now seeing is we have about 1/4. Of those people that had arts education, how many of you had arts education after 1980, let's say? Okay, that's remarkable. So what we're seeing is hands dropping, hands dropping, hands dropping, and part of that, I think, is because we saw a massive disinvestment in California education after Prop 13. And what we know is that disinvestment hit arts education extraordinarily hard, disproportionately hard, I would say. I have 2 more surveys. And part of the reason for surveys is 1, so I can make sure I know who I'm talking with, and 2, you know who's in the room. Who here's a teaching artist? Oh, how I love teaching artists. God, you guys are extraordinary. Can I just tell you how much I adore what you do, and thank you for being a teaching artist. I saw one of my teaching artists up there, Kate Randolph. She's extraordinary. And who works in a school district, and a non-teaching artist? Oh, wow. Okay, we're going to need you three here. We're really going to. What school districts?
Eureka City Schools in Northern California.
Woo! Eureka City Schools. All three of you are.
Marin County.
And Marin County in the house. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for sharing your work with us. Who works for a nonprofit? Aha! My people! Okay, about a third of the audience works for nonprofits. And who here is an independent service provider? Define that as you want. You know, it might be independent, it might be in conjunction. Okay, so you have a few, 3 or 4, and there's a lot of crossover. Okay, that's good. Who am I missing? Okay, how many people in a university setting? Okay. We have about, I would say, a quarter. Who else am I missing?
Volunteers.
Volunteers. How many volunteers do we have in the house? All right, we got 2, 3. Yes, mighty power. Anyone else? Who else am I missing?
County offices of ed.
Okay, we can take county offices of ed. I count you guys as a school district, but we'll count you as, because you are that, and as well as county offices of ed. We've got Los Angeles County of Education and Santa Clara. Awesome. I saw both on the list.
Museum.
And how many museums? Oh, raise. Okay, museums in the house. Great. So over the next 2 days, you, this group of people, practitioners from really the spectrum of providers of arts education in California, and great composition, props to the Getty for making sure that there would be enough people from around the spectrum to have an informed and substantive conversation. But the Getty is looking to answer 3 questions. What is the current state of arts integration? How is this much discussed term interpreted in practice and across different contexts, particularly in relation to museums? And what's the future of arts integration? Now, words are symbols and they communicate meaning. But do we have a clear definition of arts integration? I asked a friend this last night, and I asked her to give it to me in a simple sentence. Can I have a volunteer to have somebody give it, share with the group what arts integration is in just a very simple sentence? I got a mic and I got stares. Somebody raise their hand. All right, I knew we'd get one. I'm coming right over here.
Using art practices to deepen understanding in any subject.
That was good. How's that sound? All right, so we have a clear understanding. There's no question about that. How do we measure it? Can anyone tell that to the group in a simple way? I have a mic and I have stairs. Okay, so I think we know where we have our challenge, right? That's our work over the next couple days. So I want to share a couple stories with you, and a few of you have heard these stories before, so if you have, don't ruin it for the others. Fair enough. You know I'm looking at you. I grew up in LA. I'm a product of LAUSD. And in 1976, I had the great pleasure and opportunity of getting on a school bus and going from the San Fernando Valley to the Music Center. And it was a pretty powerful experience for me. We went to the Mark Taper Forum, and there was a student production called Bugs. And when I walked into the auditorium of the Mark Taper Forum, I remember feeling like a princess. I had never been in such a nice place before. Right. And when, they filed all these kids and we were crazy and excited, and we sat down in the seats and the house went to half, and then it went to black, and the stage illuminated. And there on the stage was a bunch of bugs. And, actors playing bugs. And I absolutely hated bugs. Hated them, especially cockroaches. Because I had a lot of cockroaches in my house. And this play was all about these bugs on the mean streets of New York City. And they were just trying to get a bite to eat. They were just trying to survive. Just like me. And I developed compassion for these bugs. I developed empathy for these bugs, even the cockroach. Because that's what the arts does. It opens your heart. And it creates opportunities for us to connect and for us to see our realities played out before us. How many of you had an experience like that as a kid? I mean, in your own way. This is extraordinary. So right now, I don't know, over half the people have raised their hands. And I would dare to say another half are just afraid to admit it. But the arts has touched you in some way, shape, or form because you know the power of it.
Would you tell us how old you were when you had that experience?
All right, I'm outing myself. I was 10. 1976 was a great year. Another experience which I want to share with you is when I had already dropped out of junior high. And I had a lot of challenges in junior high, and I couldn't keep up. I didn't have the skills to study. I didn't have the readiness to focus. I couldn't focus. And a friend had encouraged me to go back to school, and so I kind of just moved right into the high school realm. And he said, why don't you take this class? This is going to be an easy class for you. You'll be able to do it. Of course, it was the drama class. Little did I know it was not easy. But I went up. He said, you just have to go and introduce yourself to the teacher and get approval to add the class, yada, yada, yada. And I was terrified because I didn't really trust teachers at that point in my life. And so, but I was so bored. I wanted to go to school. I was just bored out of my mind. So anyway, so I muster up the courage, and I go up to this teacher who's standing in her doorway, and I say to her, "Hi, my name's Danielle. Can I take your class?" And she looks at me right in the eye, and she says, "Hello, Danielle. My name's Barbara." And she took out her hand, and she shook my hand. And then she said, would you mind going into the stage area and bring me the slide projector? And she took out her big old wad of keys. You know that wad of keys that teachers somehow always have? And she handed me her keys with the one hanging out right there. I had never experienced trust. I had never experienced respect like that from a teacher, and I had never experienced someone totally seeing me authentically as who I am, and then trusting me after seeing. And she had me. She had me for the next 3 years. I would do anything for that woman. I still would, and we're Facebook friends, and we talk all the time. And I love her. Her name is Barbara Yannick. And I am just one of the many people that she sent to the stage to get the slide projector. I joke that that was one of her tactics, but it worked. And it worked for me, and it's what I needed. Because what that woman did is created an environment where I could go and I could explore my trauma and put it into a vehicle, where I could explore my feelings and put it into a vehicle, where I could catch up and learn Shakespeare and put my emotions and my trauma into the vehicle of Shakespeare. That changed the course of my life completely. And, I think that while when I left high school, I didn't have the thought process of what would happen after high school. But I now knew that I could imagine a future greater than what I had in the past. I knew that I wasn't going to stay in the neighborhood that I grew up in, that I was going to find a way to move and transform and evolve. And after the next couple years, I got to tell you, I floundered. I held a job at a photo lab, and I, was very interested in theater, and I was very interested in arts, and I wouldn't have had that if it wasn't for those two experiences. But a friend was having a gallery show at a small nonprofit in Santa Monica called Highways Performance Space. And he was one of the photographers that was documenting the AIDS pandemic, funerals and protests and performances that were happening at that time. And I would see these huge, massive pieces roll off the printer at work. And he said, "Why don't you come and take a look at my show?" And so I made it out of the valley, and I went over to Santa Monica, which seemed like a whole other world. And there I could see these images in the gallery. And on the floor, there were the names of the people that had died because of AIDS scribbled on the floor with red and black marker. And there was a curtain separating the performance space from the gallery, and I could hear something happening inside. So I peeked in. And there was a facilitator who was doing a performance workshop. Little did I know he was one of the NEA4 and was actually suing the federal government for revoking his National Endowment grant, Tim Miller. But what he was doing is he was leading a group of about 20 people, adults, of complete and total diversity that looked like the city of Los Angeles, in an improvisation, in a visualization rooted in memory, in space, in breath. And they were pulling up the names of the people from the floor. And then they were adding gesture and movement. And I thought, I'm home. So for the next several years, I was able to apprentice at this extraordinary institution of higher learning. And I was able to learn from the great multicultural artists of our time who were challenging the government. They were speaking their truth, and they were making policy change through their art. And I volunteered, I ushered, I cleaned the trash, I learned how to work the box office, I got a job house managing, I became an artist, I learned how to walk and talk in this world. And before I knew it, I was able to tour nationally and internationally and begin a teaching career, which led me to eventually succeed the artistic director. And I tell you this story because I want to show you what's possible. And I want to tell you this story because this is what you do each and every day through your work. And whether or not you experience something similar, or you're making sure that the people that you touch experience something similar, but I think that the work that we do is creating the opportunity for everyone to reach their full creative potential, regardless of their zip code, regardless of their documentation status, regardless of where they come from, and it shouldn't be luck. It just should not be luck that these lives get to be realized, because I'm just one of many. I titled this keynote, Meaning is Strategy, because I think that if we take out the meaning of the work that we do, we're limiting ourselves. And now I'm an official appointee of Mayor Eric Garcetti, which is the second largest city in the country. And we have a very tertiary relationship in the sense of actual providing arts education. We do it through our community art centers. If you know of Watts Towers or Canoga Park Youth Art Center or Lincoln Heights or Barnsdall Art Park or William Grant Stills, and there is extraordinary teaching happening after school for youth and providing access where folks wouldn't have it. We also have an extraordinary partnership that I have to call out because Glenna Avila is here with CalArts through the Sony Digital Media Studio, which just did an extraordinary showing of new digital animators at Barnsdall Art Park. But I think it's a big challenge for us as a city family to really think through. We know that arts education is a massive equalizer. And we know that when we deliver arts education, whether it's through integration strategies, direct and discrete, after school, I kind of think we need all hands on deck with it. And in many ways, while arts education didn't teach me how to be better at math, it taught me how to regulate my emotions. It taught me how to stabilize so that I could be ready to learn. And I don't know if we in the arts community or arts education community claimed that space. And I think we should. I am so grateful for public education and public safety nets. Public housing kept me sheltered, and public assistance kept me fed, and that free and reduced lunch, oh God, I love that grilled cheese. And the coffee cake, it's delicious. Did you know you can get a recipe for the LAUSD coffee cake? It's online. It's delicious. You know what I'm talking about. It's good. But I think that there is really something about, the reason why the free and reduced lunch food and why I'm so pleased to see that the fund is still deeply investing in making sure that students come to school and they have an opportunity to be fed, because you can't think if your belly's empty, but you can't think if your heart's broken either. And so what we can do is we can help provide critical tools, and we can do that through creativity, because it's not separate. The Kennedy Center definition for arts integration. Friend sent me this last night. Thanks, Sandy. Arts integration is an approach to teaching which students construct and demonstrate understanding through an art form. Fantastic. And students engage in a creative process which connects an art form and another subject area and meets evolving objectives in both. That's the criterion, right? And I'm not going to debate this. I don't think we need to debate it. But I will say that where's the meaning in this? And how are we fostering meaning within our students? We need to have buy-in in order for learning to happen. And fostering buy-in through the creative process is possible. It creates some bonding. And it builds the readiness to learn by opening the heart and creating safety and connection. And not just between facilitator, teacher, and student, but with each other. And as public officials, that's me now, by the way, I'm a public official. Thank you, by the way. I need data to support my decisions, but my decision-making is still rooted right here in the heart. And so we need to appeal, just like I'm appealing to you and getting to know you just a little bit. Those that are in other decision-making positions need to have the same. Because they're thinking, they're feeling people too. I would have to say it was an incredible honor. And one of the highlights of my career with Arts for LA was being able to co-author Arts at the Core. And one of the extraordinary things that we did when we were writing that with Nuri Martinez is that we knew that it was going to happen before Prop 30. And we knew that if we could get it in there before Prop 30, there would be something else that we could possibly tie it on to, which was LCFF. What the policy fails to do is it has no teeth. What I love that Roy Pollins just did is he created the Arts Equity Index. Because the index then informs how the policy gets supported. We need really good, effective arts education policy, cultural policy for both the city and for school districts. We need to make sure that we don't leave and keep leaving creativity or people on the table. Because when we do, human nature starts to rebel and revolt in a way that is not going to be very productive. So I'm going to leave that with you today. I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to thank the Getty for inviting me. And I want to ask you to please do really good work over the next couple days, because I need your help in thinking through some of the complex challenges that our city. And let's just be clear. The city of Los Angeles, they're all the same kids. We want to make sure we leave nobody behind. Thank you so much.